The Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friend. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask of him in my name. I am giving you these commandments so that you may love one another." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Today, our Gospel reading from John is a continuation of the words that we heard last week, the words we heard Jesus speaking. This whole section of John's Gospel is known as Jesus' Farewell Discourse because he is preparing the disciples for his death. He knows he's going to die and he will be leaving them. In John's Gospel, these words are some of the last words Jesus spoke. And his last words are all about love. Jesus speaks of his love for the disciples and by extension, his love for each one of us. Jesus says, "As the Father has loved me, so I love you, and so you should love one another." In our culture, the word love gets thrown around a lot, and it is highly ambiguous. In Greek, there are many different words for different types of love that become translated to English simply as the word love. In today's passage, the word that has been translated as love comes from the Greek word agape. This kind of love describes the excellence of character that God has by nature. It is all about relationship, and it is the kind of love we find characterizing the relationship of the three persons of the Trinity. It is the kind of love in which we participate through sheer grace. Agape describes the Father's love for the Son, and it also describes God's love for us. Agape is all gift. It is all gift from God. Agape is not a feeling or an inclination. It is the kind of love that responds as obedience to God's commandment to choose to love others as God has chosen to love us. Agape love is always primarily interested in the good of the other person rather than in one's own self. It is never a love that attempts to possess or dominate others. The concern is always for others, and agape is never subordinating. It is always authentic, providing genuine space for others to be, to become, and to grow. And it is always offered without reserve. Agape is superabundant. We live in a culture that is extremely self-serving and self-focused, a culture in which love takes on possessive characteristics. In fact, there is frequently a tendency to view love as a commodity, even something that becomes a scarcity as some people begin to think others are receiving more love than they are. This is never what love is about. In his book, What's So Amazing About Grace, Philip Yancey tells this wonderful story about Mother Teresa and the definition of agape love that she shared at a national prayer breakfast. He writes, rolled out in a wheelchair, the frail 83-year-old Nobel Peace Prize laureate needed help to stand up. A special platform had to be positioned to allow her to see over the podium. Even so, hunched over, 4 feet 6 inches tall, she could barely reach the microphone. She spoke clearly and slowly with a thick accent in a voice that nonetheless managed to fill the auditorium. Mother Teresa said that America has become a selfish nation, in danger of losing the proper meaning of love. And the meaning she gave was giving until it hurts. I have to say Mother Teresa's analysis of our nation was right on. We have become a very selfish nation, and far too often self-interest is placed at the top of the list of priorities. In fact, we have become a nation that is increasingly exemplifying the characteristics of narcissism, as in America first. We also tend to be people who talk about love as this warm feeling inside, this euphoric feeling one has when with some special person. We talk about making love. We throw the word love around and use it in cheap ways as we talk about loving objects like our house or our car. Quite often we talk about loving something we want to get or have or possess. What we claim to love is often born out of a consumer-driven culture. But when it comes to people in relationships with others, we can be rather stingy about our love. Yes, we are self-serving. So today, I think it is so fitting that Jesus' words break into our lives with a message of love. The love God has for this world, for all people, and for each one of us. The love God calls us into every day is a very different kind of love. The nature of this love is giving. As Mother Teresa said, giving until it hurts. That is the love Jesus was talking about, and that is the love he lived. Jesus not only gave until it hurt, he gave of himself until death unto a cross, and all for the sake of love. That is how much he loved the disciples and how much he loves us, each one of you. When we live into this kind of love, it is a choice. It's a choice we make. We choose to love, and it becomes a way of life through which we then become changed. To love in this manner means obeying Jesus' command to love. Agape love is a disciplined habit of care and concern, one that we work on perfecting over a lifetime of the living word changing us, continually challenging us, taking us to new places and continually making us new. The love God shows toward Jesus is a demanding love, but it is also full of presence, promise, and joy. It is a love that prunes, cleanses, challenges, molds, forms, and carries Jesus throughout his ministry, and it does the same to us. It is that kind of love we are called to live. The love of God that we are invited into is a love without limits. It is wasteful love. It is love that is selfless and thus produces and enhances life. In fact, this love we see in the person of Jesus Christ is a love that invites us into a whole new dimension of what it means to be human, a love through which we come and become more fully human. When we live this kind of love, the strictures of life, those boundaries that establish status and power are reversed. And all human images of protective barriers that provide security are removed. When we live this kind of love, the boundaries that have been created to separate us from those considered others are obliterated. This love is a servant love that truly cares for all others. When God lives in us, that love changes us, and we will serve the world. We will give our love and our life to others. The status games that human beings play, they're no longer going to work when we live this kind of love and when we experience this new consciousness, because there are no master-servant relationships inside the embrace of love. Friends, God is defined as love. And the love of God, the love that we are called to live, is not an entity so much as it is a penetrating experience. It is the experience of God in our lives. We discover that God's love embraces people as they are. And we discover that we cannot create this kind of love. One can only receive it. And when it has been received, it must be immediately shared. The love we are called to live is a love that cannot be stored. This love cannot be saved for a rainy day, and it cannot be used later like leftovers. The love we are called to live must be passed on, because, quite honestly, love that is not passed on, I think, dies. This is the love that binds us to God and one another. And this love is the very meaning of the person of Jesus. Adele, Owen, Victor, Atu, Griffin, and Brenna. Today you will be making public affirmation of your baptism as you are confirmed into Christian faith. This is important, life-changing stuff. This is a life-giving commitment you will be making today. Confirmation is not like graduation. Confirmation is all about making a commitment to become fully part of the faith community, to become deeply connected and live into relationship with God and others as you participate in the community of faith. And as you make affirmation of your faith and of your baptism, you are called to love and continue to live into this love that God has for you and for all people. Today, Jesus' last words to the disciples and to each one of you are, "I've loved you the way my Father has loved me. Make yourselves at home in my love. If you keep my commands, you'll remain intimately at home in my love." That's what I've done. Kept my Father's commands and made myself at home in his love. I've told you these things for a purpose, that my joy might be your joy, and your joy wholly mature. This is my command. Love one another the way I loved you. This is the best way to love. Put your life on the line for your friends. Amen.